Paul Broady. Can we go to Paul Broady? Thank you. And we'll come back to Jade. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for hearing me. I've got two very simple points to make. One is about cycleways and public transport and getting people hopefully out of their petrol and diesel driven cars. And one is about funding of actions to counter climate change, to mitigate climate change and adapt to climate change. So all my points, the context is on the screen at the moment, those three graphs, which you're probably all very familiar with, showing the global situation, temperature going up, carbon dioxide going up, methane going up. It won't be until the carbon dioxide and the methane graphs level off that temperature will stabilise. And as you all know, we're in a really critical situation. We've got to take prompt and deep action to cut our greenhouse gas emissions. So, on the first point about cycleways, I think it's great that we've got dedicated cycleways around the city and a developing network of them. The network isn't yet extensive enough, of course. What do you call them on the diagram? I haven't got my glasses on, but where there's a painted line on the road isn't good enough. And I think most of the routes are still of that sort. A painted line on the road where the cyclists are exposed to car doors opening and traffic passing you on the other side. Extremely dangerous. You're not going to encourage people to take up cycling if those particular routes aren't changed to dedicated cycleways. I did a bit of a Google search and I only found one league table, Global Bicycle Cities Index, which ranked cities according to the facilities they provided for cyclists. And that's the result. There are 90 cities on this league table. Utrecht in the Netherlands was at the top. Wellington was number 30. Auckland was number 49. And I heard on the news this morning that Auckland are putting considerable funding into improving cycling facilities. Lagos is number 90. And I've nothing against Lagos. They might have good facilities for cyclists, but that's it. Christchurch doesn't feature on this league table. So I suggest maybe if you want to get up there with Wellington and Auckland and maybe Utrecht eventually, much more funding has got to be put into cycleways. There are a couple of photographs of Utrecht. That top left is a rush hour, lots of happy cyclists. They're even confident enough to go without helmets. And on the right, that's a bicycle park next to a commuter rail station. Now, we're not going to see anything like that, but maybe we will have public transport hubs where people can pick up cycles, drop off cycles. So we might approach something like that eventually. So to encourage people, 1914, the nurses were cycling around Christchurch. Nowadays, they'd have to largely put up with what you see on the right. So that would be a painted white line on the road with those cyclists exposed to the traffic and exposed to car doors being opened. So I'm just making the point, more funding into cycleways, I hope, and bringing those plans for cycleways over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years or whatever, hopefully bringing that forward. We have no time to waste in cutting emissions, encouraging personal transport and public transport. My second point is about funding for climate change. Top left is from the annual plan, the discussion document, where you provide this wonderful diagram showing how much funding is going to all those sectors, but nowhere does it explicitly say what funding might be going to climate change. And as a city, we hope to halve our emissions by 2030. I want to know, and I think that many other people in the city, increasing numbers of people in the city, would like to specifically know more or less how much funding is going into climate mitigation, cutting emissions or climate adaptation, adapting to sea level rise, etc. How much funding is going into those areas? There's no indication in your financial plans of that at present. So I'm after some sort of pie diagram like the one shown bottom right. Very general perhaps. And we've also got this wonderful climate resilience strategy. A lot of thought's obviously gone into it. There are 10 programmes. There's the list of the programmes. But again, there's no indication explicitly of how much funding might be going into each of these programmes. I think we need to know that. And again, from the annual plan, I've just picked out some of the detail. And maybe even in the huge table you've got over, I don't know, it's over about 100 pages listing all the capital expenditure, maybe just a couple of columns to direct people's attention to which of those items of funding might contribute to mitigation, reduction of our emissions, and which might be contributing to our adaptation to climate change. And I've just indicated a few examples. So overall, I'm afraid this sort of diagram just gives me indigestion, but it's taken from your, probably gives you indigestion as well. Vastly complex, really, taken from your climate resilience strategy and how you're going to fulfil that. But the very bottom line, funding delivered through Council's long-term plan and annual plan process. Sure, yep, that's where the funding's divvied up. But for the normal citizen, it's impossible or very difficult for you to get any idea of how much is specifically going into this climate resilience strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I think these are issues that have been raised by councillors as well. So thank you very much for making the time to come in with your presentation and for presenting it.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Graphically as well. Thank you. Now online we have Jade McFarlane, and he's with us